You ready? Here's the script: tight, direct, and camera ready. Aaron Rodgers came to Pittsburgh as a one-year fix and a feel-good headline, a future Hall of Famer, a clean contract, and a veteran who could steady a roster that aggressively retooled to win now. He has answered plenty of questions on the field: sharp accuracy, big plays, and leadership moments, but one blunt truth keeps resurfacing. A great short-term fit doesn't automatically translate into a championship window. Reuters reported Rodgers himself saying he's pretty sure 2025 will be his final season, which changes how you size expectations for what this team can realistically accomplish. Reuters. Let's talk specifics. Through 7 games, Rodgers has been efficient, completion percentage north of 68%, and solid counting stats that show he's not just throwing garbage time numbers. ESPN's game log shows roughly 1,270 yards, 14 TDs, and 5 interceptions through 6 starts. Those are high leverage, above average outputs for a 41-year-old in a new scheme, and they matter for a team chasing playoff consistency. ESPN.com, but Jeff Howe of The Athletic slapped the group with a reality check this week. Expecting a Super Bowl during Rodgers' likely one-year stay is unrealistic. That's not an insult so much as a calendar exercise. Building a championship requires depth, time, and a quarterback plan that stretches past one season. Howe's point is simple: short-term fits can create wins, but they rarely flip a franchise's destiny on a single offseason swing. Newsweek context is everything here. The Steelers are 4-2 and very much alive in the AFC picture. They've added genuine blue-chip help around Rodgers and reshaped the roster for immediate impact. But the loss to Cincinnati, a 33-31 primetime defeat in which veteran Joe Flacco engineered a last-minute drive, exposed 2 things: thin margins decide divisional races, and a single late-game sequence can erase a month of shiny stats. That game was a reminder that experience sometimes beats flash, and that good enough, on paper, doesn't always cover situational execution. ESPN.com, let's break down the practical obstacles between very good and Super Bowl contender for Pittsburgh. 1. Depth behind the starters. One-season signings rarely fix holes across an entire roster. Championship teams typically have contingency at critical spots: pass rush rotation depth, a top-tier secondary, and playable backups at key skill positions who can carry snaps without a significant drop-off. The Steelers front office made heavy, sensible bets to maximize 2025, but there's still a roster construction gap when compared to true Super Bowl favorites who have been building continuity for years. 2. Coaching fit and scheme timeline. It's one thing to add elite talent and another thing to fully integrate it. The playbook must be tailored to Rodgers' strengths: quick reads, play action, vertical timing, and the offensive line and weapons have to operate with precision on timing plays. That takes weeks of reps and in-game trust. Over a 7-week sample, Rodgers looks comfortable, but the playoffs are a different animal. Defenses slow the game down, and coaches who have ironed out their identities tend to win the chess matches. 3. Injuries and margin for error. Rodgers said this was likely his last year. That means the Steelers have a compressed window. Any significant injury to the QB or a string of close losses forces a pivot with less runway. Championships favor teams that survive attrition without dropping from elite to average. If Rodgers sustains high-level play and the supporting cast remains healthy, Pittsburgh's ceiling stays high, but the floor is more precarious than it would be with a multi-year succession plan quarterback approach. 4. The schedule and momentum. The NFL's calendar is a grind. Primetime losses, divisional swings, and a gauntlet of opponents can reshape a team's season in a matter of weeks. The Bengals game is a cautionary tale. Veteran fluke or not, the Bengals walked away with points when it mattered most. That's exactly the kind of small, brutal arithmetic that separates 12-5 contenders from 9-8 also-rans. So it's a practical plan for Pittsburgh from here. 3 actions that make sense immediately. Maximize Rodgers' strengths while protecting him from the ugly plays. That means more quick game concepts, scripted early downs, and situational play calling that minimizes pressure on the offensive line. Let Rodgers pick his spots for deep shots. Don't make them the offense's identity every drive. Shore up depth proactively. The front office should quietly explore midseason upgrades on the edge and in the secondary. Pieces that won't break the bank but will buy comfort if injuries hit. Deadline agility matters more when your QB's timeline is short. Develop an unspoken succession plan. Even if Rodgers returns in 2026, the team benefits from evaluating youth or short-term veteran options now. Building for the next chapter is smart football. Pretending this season is everything is risky. Make no mistake, Rodgers' presence elevates Pittsburgh. He has a chance to mentor, to sharpen younger teammates, and to deliver winning football this fall. But championships are rarely the product of one off season. They're the accumulation of continuity, depth, and a quarterback plan that extends beyond a single milestone. Howe's piece isn't doomsaying. It's a measured reminder that expectations need alignment with calendar realities and roster construction. Newsweek, for viewers and the narrative voice of your channel, sell the tension. Rodgers is playing brilliantly enough to keep what if alive, and the Steelers have built a compelling now case around him. But the story that hooks an audience isn't simply Rodgers looks great. It's the narrower, more interesting question. Can a one-year marriage between a future Hall of Famer and a hungry franchise produce a dynasty-level moment? Or is it a high watermark season that ends with hard choices in the front office? Close with a line that sticks, Rodgers gave Pittsburgh a spark, a cinematic one-year experiment, but championships aren't spark shows. They're slow burns. If this season becomes the Steelers' slow burn into contention, we'll call it brilliant. If it ends as a beautiful brief epilogue to Rodgers' career, it will still be a hell of a story. The difference will be written in depth charts, not headlines. Jeff Howe's takeaway, that expecting a Super Bowl out of Aaron Rodgers' one-year fling with the Steelers is unrealistic, stung because it cuts through the feel-good veneer and asks the obvious. Are 6 weeks of a hot quarterback enough to rewrite a franchise's trajectory? The short answer, probably not. Heavy sports start with the facts. Rodgers has been sharp, efficient completion rate, eye-popping touchdown rate, and the Steelers sit near the top of the AFC North. But it's a tiny sample on a 41-year-old on a one-year incentive-heavy deal. The numbers look nice so far. He's completing a high percentage of throws and producing big plays, yet the contract and age frame this as a limited window rather than the start of a dynasty. Teams built to win it all need durable depth, not just a hot streak from a veteran. ESPN.com reality number 1, playoff football is a gauntlet. Regular season rhythm is crucial. But the postseason is a different animal. Games tighten, playbooks shorten, and depth gets exposed. A one-year veteran QB can carry you a long way, but injuries, scheme adjustments, and a single loss in a short series blow up title hopes. The Steelers' record feels encouraging, but it's still early. Sustaining elite defensive play, protecting Rodgers, and avoiding offensive variance matter far more in January than headlines do in October. ProFootballReference.com. Reality number 2, roster construction and the margin for error. Pittsburgh added splash pieces this offseason, and Rodgers gives them a shot at maximizing that talent. Yet, Super Bowl teams typically have continuity across the offensive line, elite depth at skill positions, and a defense that can take over playoff games. Those are structural investments, not short-term narratives. If the line wobbles or the defense cools, the whole thing can unravel. Fast. ProFootballReference.com, reality number 3. Opponents adapt fast. Tape accumulates. Defensive coordinators will test Rodgers' mobility, his timing concepts, and whether the Steelers can still move the chains under different pressure packages. Early season success invites scheming. The trick is whether Pittsburgh's coaching staff can evolve the offense without overcomplicating it. A quick fix becomes fragile if teams find consistent answers. ESPN.com. That said, don't confuse realism with pessimism. Rodgers' presence changes the floor dramatically. Short-term wins, clearer reads for receivers, and less turnover risk. And that's valuable.